Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is XFerginatorX and we got another video for you today. Today is going to probably be the last one I'm going to do for a while now that it's not going to be anything non-Halo related. This is just something I wanted to do because since clearly the Coalition listened to a lot of the requests by the Gears community of things they wanted to see in Gears 5, and that video I did about the top 10 requests or so forth about what people wanted to see in Gears 5. Clearly they listened to the community, so I thought it was only fair that I finally do a review on what they did right, what I liked about it, and what I didn't what I kind of disliked about it. So it's just going to be hopefully a quick review. I'm not going to go too far in depth with the multiplayer and stuff. It's more going to be on the story that I'm going to focus on and stuff like that. But let's get into it. So right off the bat, I want to say here is that they did a really good job when it came to graphics. I mean, even if they do come out with Gear 6 eventually, I don't think anything particularly big has to change with the graphics. The graphics were really good. The sound was good. Everything about it, like quality-wise, was perfectly on par of like something you see like on a Hollywood movie. But it was perfect in the way it was delivered, and it was just really good to look at visually. The fire, the smoke, and the skin textures and everything, perfect. I have to say that I also love the fact that they took something that existed in the old Gears of War games and they kind of expanded on it, was the weather. So before, the weather was kind of just like not too extreme, but they did have things like razor hell and some environmental hazards, but they kind of in this game turned it up a bunch with you had like hail that was like ridiculous. It was like gigantic ice chunks just falling out of the sky, and then you had lightning bolts that were so powerful that it caused it looked like what I thought originally were just trees that looked glassy and whatnot, but it turned out to be that the lightning bolts were hitting the sand so powerful that it caused the sand to not only turn to glass but actually turn into glass into a gigantic tree type shape that would form. And it was pretty cool to see something like that. That environmental hazard actually added some extra fun to it because it kind of made it a little bit not too random. They did it kind of in a good way where even though it still was random where it would hit, it still didn't just become so random that it was going to accidentally kill you, and then you would get really frustrated by just randomly dying. But it actually was just something fun that adds the situation that the entire environment wasn't just static, that things were going to change no matter what when you're in these storms and so forth. I also have to say that I really did like the fact that they actually added in this really cool new mode to play where you actually can play the escape mode where you try to avoid it was kind of like a progressive game mode where you have to keep moving so you don't get taken over by the gas that's building up, but you have to fight all these enemies too as well. And I like how you start off with almost nothing, so you have to build up your way to new weapons in order to keep progressing through and surviving. The hard part though for me currently, I'm just going to add, even though it's a little bit of a negative, is that I just have yet to find a match. I unfortunately haven't had a lot of time to play, but every time I go to play it, right when it starts, people just drop out. That's something that's kind of annoying. I think maybe they should start adding bots in there or something, because that was kind of irritating. Also, the whole map builder idea, that was cool. I remember saying it would be great if we could build our own maps, and then they tell us, oh yeah, you can do that and you can make your own escape mode using that. And then later on we're planning to do this for adding into Horde and to matchmaking PvP, and I'm sitting there going, what? Okay, that sounds cool. So I wonder if they're going to allow you to place the weapons too and stuff like that, be able to just really go to town customizing it. If they do that, it's going to probably be more procedural in designing it, but that sounds pretty cool if they do decide to do that. Also, something that I didn't think I was going to like at first, I thought I was going to be throwing people off, and it kind of did for me for a bit, but I actually grew to like it, was the new mechanics that they added in, especially with the chainsaw. The fact that you can now just do a quick melee, and then you can do that powerful chainsaw melee. I actually like that. I really like that incorporation, and now I almost wish it was in every other previous Gears of War game, because it actually was really convenient to be able to hold your Lancer and move it around while also doing quick melees. So it actually made it a lot better than what it was previously in Gears of War games. So I actually liked it. It really made new combat situations, the fighting enemies and so forth. And while we're talking about the subject of environments and new mechanics, I kind of love the idea that you could shoot the ice and make the enemy fall right through it. So you could kind of like stage little traps and so forth, which actually added really more to that cool element where you really do understand that you're starting to become outnumbered by the swarm, and that there's a small fraction of humans left, and you're just having to fight off against this larger force. And then what you have to do is guerrilla tactics. And I love that whole idea of in the ice shooting out the ground and making it fall, and the enemies fall right through it. I thought that was really cool. I wish I could keep doing that because it was fun to just like set up these like traps, and like at the right moment you spring the trap and take out multiple enemies at a time. That was cool. And so yeah, overall, I really liked a lot of the stuff they did. I mean, the movements were the movements in the game were very smooth. The best I've ever actually experienced was how smooth it was, and how you slide in the cover very well. The shooting mechanics worked perfect. It was just really overall just. It felt like Gears 4.5, just like they took Gears 4 and just really just improved everything upon what already existed. I know that it doesn't feel like it's like a drastic change, but I kind of like that. It didn't do anything super major that it kind of threw the game off, except for a few parts where when it did, it actually did it well, which was with the chainsaw. But yeah, that's what I would say for overall was great. No negatives there. There was some stuff as well that was kind of positive, but with some negatives, and that was the no loot boxes. I'm glad that there's no loot boxes in the game, and unfortunately what I kind of expected was if they took out the loot boxes, everything would be raised up in prices. Some people act like they were totally surprised by this. They're like, what? Why are they raising the prices so high? When loot boxes were in Gears 4, all the items were cheap. It's like, yeah, because it was randomized. Now you have to buy directly and they have to give you that item. Now they're gonna actually up the prices for getting that stuff, so it's gonna come with a cost to it. So I kind of expected that. Unfortunately, that was going to take a little bit of time to grind it. Unfortunately, it's just like there's no win scenario on this. But I do like the fact that there's no more paying for like maps, that you can actually play them on your own private matches, and you don't have to actually pay for that stuff anymore. So I'm not going to be too, ridiculous about the whole microtransaction like some people are. It is dumb. It is some of the prices for some of the dumbest things. Like I can understand if like a skin was more expensive, but you have all these other things that were just kind of just ridiculous, like a simple execution that they just said, oh, you gotta have $5 to use that execution, and giving someone the thumbs up, I think they said was like $2. I'm like, these are just some emotes and stuff. Why are these things being charged for like these egregious prices that are something simple, like especially the animation stuff? I'm not going to say much about the execution, but the simple like giving someone a thumbs up or something like that, I don't know the full details of that, but that's not a huge deal to have an animator do. So I don't understand why they charge that much. I can understand if you're designing a new outfit for a character and it takes time to actually model that stuff, but to animate a person giving a thumbs up, I'm not saying it's not something you just do in like 5 seconds, you can just press a button, but it really was not something that they should be charging $2 for. It shouldn't even have been something that even I don't even think should have even had a price tag on it. That's just something that's not even like drastically changed or anything that's major. So I don't know why they're trying to nickel and dime on something like that. But anyways, let's talk about some of the negative effects, some of the things that weren't so great about the game. So some of the other things that I noticed in this game that I really just it was kind of unfortunate. Like no one's gone crazy about this, but yet they did go crazy about this when Halo 5 did it, and that there's no 4-player co-op. They justified this by saying that the storyline requires it, that they need to do that, which yes, they did, but technically you can write the story to still have 4 players. It's just they didn't want to do that, and they would want to have an excuse to not have to have 4 players. So the max you can have in this is I think 2 players, and that's it, which kind of was just unfortunate that they went that route, but that's their decision. But yeah, it's funny how people don't mind that, but then people go crazy about Halo when it doesn't even put co-op in the game, and then they're like, what, it needs to have 4-player co-op. So yeah, that was just something that was kind of unfortunate, that you can't have 4 players to play together. And I was kind of hoping for that, because I like that in Gears 3 when you were able to do that stuff. That was a fun thing to do when you had the final boss fight and you were able to do that kind of stuff. Now we're going to get a little bit deeper into some of the things I did not like in this game, and one of them was the campaign story. Oh man, I'm just going to say it flat out. Like, the story was short, and the only way they made it take longer so that they could justify the time of it to make it feel like it was longer was with that open world elements. I kind of was afraid of that's what open world elements were going to do. I thought they were going to be able to at least do some stuff to make it take away from that aspect, like some of the things that Assassin's Creed does to help make it so that even though it's an open world, you still feel like you're interacting with it. This game just completely feels bare bones. Let me try and break down how bad it was. That they tried to fill it up with secondary objectives just to distract you from the fact that the main storyline, if I were to just to focus on just that alone and didn't focus on anything else, it'd probably take me maybe 45 minutes to complete this game. It really did not take a whole lot of time. I just decided to play it on the hardest difficulty, and I tried to play it by myself on the hardest difficulty, doing all the secondary objectives. So yeah, it did take me some time. But in reality, if I were to play this game on easy and did not bother with the secondary objectives, this game could be beat so quickly it's not even funny. It just took no time at all, no effort, nothing at all. There's 4 acts in it, and the first act is just like the fourth act, where it's not open world. It's just straight up story, straight linear, which I kind of actually liked just because of the fact that it actually got to the point. And then you had Acts 2 and Acts 3 that were not. They were open world. And the worst part is I only liked Act 3. Act 3 was the only one that was actually interesting because it had a little more involvement with the environment. Act 2 was just completely barren. I loved the whole ice thing, being able to shoot people into the water and whatnot. But as for traveling from one objective to the other, it was just boring. It was seriously boring. There was nothing in there. I thought, maybe they would throw in some Brewmax or Swarmax and other enemies throughout the open world map so that it could actually bring some danger to it. Like, say, if you see some areas are going to have higher concentrations of enemies in the open world elements, and that you're going to have to just ski around them, or you can ski through them and attack them. But I thought they were going to give you like a weapon to shoot them with. And then if you stay there too long, it alerts more of them to show up. And if you kill them all and you go away, but then you come back later in that area, that the enemies are going to build back up. And not only are they going to build back up, they're going to be a lot tougher to fight next time. So something to make it so that it would actually be harder in this open world environment and so forth. That would have been, something a little bit more interesting to make it more difficult. But instead, I went to one place to another place, and the only reason why it took a lot of time was because you had to actually just take a vehicle to get around to places. I like the idea of it, that you can store weapons and stuff, because I hated that, where you have you can only hold 2 weapons, but you have this third weapon you want to carry with you. And I kind of like the idea that they did there, but I think they could have incorporated it a little bit better. Hopefully in Gear 6 they kind of do something where you have a mobile vehicle unit where you can keep weapons, and you can even choose people to be on your team and just use that, and everyone else stays in the mobile base, and you can just move it from place to place. That would kind of be cool if they did something like that. But they really need to justify the open environment if they're going to do that again, because that open environment stuff does not work. If they're going to do that, I'd rather go back to linear, because if you were to play Gears 2 right now or Gears 3 and you were to play it just as is, the linear parts of the game, and you were the whole game, which is all linear, and then you were to play the main stories of Gears 5, they don't even compare. You could play hours worth of the main game in Gears 2 and Gears 3, you play this and it's over in 45 minutes at tops. It's not that hard to get through, and it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, and that's what was really sad about this. Another kind of bad part about it too was how easy it was. I like the new incorporation of Jack. I really like that you can upgrade him and make him better and so forth, but even on solo, once you start getting him upgraded high enough, every encounter becomes easy as hell to beat. There's like no challenge at all once you get to the last act. Once you get him like really beefed up with all the upgrades, he's just pretty much like there to protect you all the time, and there's no real surprises and stuff like that. Yeah, so that kind of was unfortunate. And overall, the story was kind of just like, it really felt like they literally took the entire story, like there was an actual good written story, and they just scrubbed out a whole bunch of it and said, no, we can't have that happen. We got to have it go like this, and just took out a good story and just replaced it with all this other stuff that was like, really? Because like they really advertised the story as the idea that Kate was going to become the Swarm Queen, and instead, which by the way I'm gonna say now, if you guys don't want to listen to the rest of this, spoilers are all coming ahead. So if you don't want to listen to it, even though it's been out for almost a month now, then you might want to just turn this off. But I'm going to start saying stuff here. So we thought, with the trailer that Kate was going to become the Swarm Queen, but instead they still end up coming up with a Swarm Queen even without her. And it's really dumb. It is really, really dumb. It's no effort, low tier effort of the story. It didn't really mean that much to me. I wasn't really like, oh, look it's the Swarm Queen. It was just, it was not like surprise, like, oh my god. It was just like, okay, it looks like something that I was about to see out of one of my hentai videos. So yeah, it really was just so tough. I was like, oh god, are they for real? You're like, oh, I see the tentacles, I know where this is going. So yeah, it was kind of one of those situations. There was like, I liked some of the side stuff to it. Like, I'd like to see what the UIR military actually looked like during the Pendulum Wars, which you do get to see that. You get to see all the vehicles and their cities and stuff like that existed back then. You get some interesting stories of back then, you go, wait a second, I thought the COG had they had the Hammer of Dawn system, but it turned out that in reality, the UIR was actually much closer to having the same system working and so forth. Obviously, COG stole the whole Hammer of Dawn from the UIR, but the thing was that it was they were the ones using it, but it turned out that the UIR could literally have launched and used their own, but never actually did, and they had rockets that were sitting in hangars that never got, or in silos that never got used. So that was kind of cool to learn that, and it was also cool to finally, at least something that I did like about the Gears 5 was that you finally got to learn about Mount Kadar and New Hope facility, and you finally got to understand it more, because there was always a speculation of what it was about, and now you finally get to know what everything that happened, what was so secretive. Because I remember in Gears 2 they go, oh, you got to go to Mount Kadar. It's like, why do I need to go here? And it felt like there was no point. You just go into a cave for a bit, and then you eventually get to the Nexus City, but it's just like it felt like there was something missing there, and they finally answer all that in this. You finally run into Nigel again, and you find out more about what this whole New Hope facility was, which it turned out that it was like kids suffering from rust lung, and they were experimented on and all this stuff. I'm not going to spoil the entire story, but basically you end up finding out that the Queen Mira from the controlled the Locust, that she was one of those children, and that she ended up becoming the one in control, and that the whole story with the Sires was the first failed attempt at making the Locust, and then later on you get the battle actual Locust, the ones that haven't even been touched by the by emulsion or anything like that, so they're still in their perfect form. So it's pretty cool to see like actual Locusts with the graphics of today, but it's a Locust from Gears 1 pretty much, so it's cool to see that. But yeah, that was some of the interesting parts of the whole situation, the story. But yeah, overall, this story was just not that like, oh my god, it was very heartfelt and stuff like that. And another part of it was, what the hell with the whole JD situation? Like, there was nothing really there. It was just like the guy who's made the main character in Gears 4 gets sidelined to the point where he's thrown out of the story, and you don't even really deal with him until all the way into like Act 3. Like, he's there in Act 1 as well, but he's kind of like sidelined. And same thing with Marcus, to make the one character who we thought was gonna, Kate, who's gonna become the Swarm Queen, go. It felt like that's what they took back, was like she was gonna become the Swarm Queen, and there was gonna be this whole controversy and stuff like that. They said, nah, she's gonna stay a good guy. We can't have her go bad. It's like you were building up to something really interesting, and then just didn't even go through with it. And I feel like they're teasing me again that in Gears 6 they're gonna tease it again, that maybe she might actually consider becoming the queen, so that way she can take over the Swarm and be able to stop them, because at this point they're unstoppable, and humanity is on the brink of extinction now, because they had everyone all in one city thinking that they could be able to protect them, and it turns out that they just had no chance against the Swarm. They just took over so easily. That's another thing I did not like about them. They just swarmed in the worst way possible. Instead of like swarming by just everyone just charging straight ahead where it was just easy to shoot them all down, there should have been an actual flanking like pincer maneuver when they were attacking you and stuff like that. These ones just straight up just went up and tried to charge you. They didn't use any real strategy. They didn't use anything interesting. The only thing was those one machines, I forgot what they call them, that generate shields. That was the only thing that was like, okay, that's, I guess, interesting. But again, you had Jack who could just hijack them, and it just made it like ridiculous when you could just hijack the person, so you didn't need to even worry about it. Like, for example, there were, especially near the end, what I did was I hijacked the warden when there was a Brumach, and just had him run in there and have the Brumach just kill the warden, so I didn't have to fight him. It was really easy to get around stuff like that, which is another thing I want to also mention, was the boss fights were so dumb. They were so dumb. They tried to put you in these like really interesting, like difficult situations, and they just were not. It's like, here's the thing. Here's every Gears 5 boss battle in a nutshell. Okay, let's put them in a small room and then put a boss in there, and we'll call it good. It was like, you don't have to put people in a small confined room and still make it a boss battle, but that's what they did. Every major fight scene, if it was going to be, oh, it's going to be a snatcher, oh, it's going to be a warden, if it was going to be any of these like difficult things, okay, we'll put them in a small room and then spawn that thing in there, and then that'll be a boss fight, and it'll be so difficult because it's so small that therefore it's considered a well thought out plan. It's like, there's other ways of doing a boss fight without having to have it be something like a 5-foot room, pretty much. And that's what it made it so dumb. It's just, it was not really thought out. It was just always, let's put them in a small confined area and call that a boss fight. So I didn't really like that. I didn't like that was really it. That was these small engagements, and 10% of the entire mission and 90% of the game was like really easy to go through, whether you're just going around from one place to another on the skiff, or the missions themselves were just really basic. You got to take down like 10 enemies and stuff, and then you got, oh, here comes the warden. Okay, instead of the warden having any brains at all, like I get that they're supposed to be kind of like a hive mentality, but they gotta have some intelligence. You see these wardens that were just so dumb, they just run straight at you. All you had to do is go, okay, shoot the ice. Oh, it fell in. What an idiot. I could have believed it for the Berserker, because the Berserker was blind. Or whatever they want to call that one. I have no idea what they called it, to be honest. But that Berserker, at least I can believe it because it's actually blind. It can't see. So I was okay with that. I was okay with that whole thing that it can't see. So you could just drop it in the ice and then try and do damage to it. I was cool with that. That was totally fine with me for that. But as for all the others that were so dumb and they were walking on the ice when you start attacking them, I could get like using attacking the ice when they walk on it when they're not, knowing that you're there. But the whole entire the whole entire time of fighting all these enemies, they should have been like, oh, I should stay away from the ice. But no, they walk right on the ice and you just shoot them and they just fall through. I'm like, this is going to be the easiest Gears game I've ever played. They did a good job of that. Like, only a few parts of it were actually difficult on a hard difficulty solo. And the only reason why they're hard in a difficulty environment was just because of AIs being stupid, or just because they put everything in a small confined area. And the final boss fight was so irritating because it was mostly just idiots. And it was also just over the kill random RNG. It wasn't actually like anything you did wrong. It was just the RNG was just not in your favor. That's the only way they pretty much did it. And again, the teammates were really dumb. Like, there should be something that tells them like not to walk in a certain area if someone pulls out an explosive weapon. Like, I'd pull out like a boom shot, it's all clear, then I go fire, and then all of a sudden Coltrane goes woo and jumps right into your shot and fucking kills you pretty much. One of those scenes, it was just so dumb. I don't think it was Coltrane, I think it was Dell or someone just like at that mission just jumps right in front of my gun, and I'm like sitting there, are you real right now? Are you real? No one's there. I just look around, it's all clear, I go to fire, and just this dude just rolls in there, and it's an AI. It's not anyone controlling it. Just rolls right into my shot. And I'm like sitting there going, are you kidding me right now? So that was one of the worst things. And once you get the ability to hijack, it made a lot of fighting easy. Like, oh no, it's a warden and 3 scions. Oh, what will I ever do? And, you know, seriously, all you gotta do is just hijack the warden and have him just take out all the scions, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's all been taken care of, and that's all I'd had to do for most of it. It made the mission a breeze. Just overall, those things just really ruined it for me. As for the matchmaking, I have not played it, but I've heard a lot of people complain about the PvP benchmaking. A lot of people have been complaining about the whole Lancers takeover, and that the Nashers have no use like how they used to in all these Gears games. Here's a funny thing about that. I'm just gonna say it. I know not everyone's gonna agree with me. I think I'm probably gonna get disliked a lot for saying this, but if you're only good at one game, if you're only good at one weapon and that's it, you're not a pro player. You're just a specialist. There's generalists and there's specialists, and that's like different types of pro players. A generalist can play with any weapon. You hand them a Lancer, you hand them a Hammer Burst, you hand them a Nasher, they're good with any of them. If you're only good with a Nasher, then you're not good at the game. You're just good with one weapon. And that's the thing, is a lot of people say, well, that's all you need. It's like, no. A lot of people try to justify being pros in Halo 2. In reality, the only reason why they're pro was because they used noob combos. They would use button combos, and they would just rely entirely on the BR, because the BR had 0 bloom, 0 spread, so you never had to worry about missing, and you could fire from the hip. It was the most powerful weapon in the game. There was no weapons that could really face off against it, so it made it like that. And so in order to keep it into a MVP esport element, they had to actually add spread to it, which I don't think that was the way they should have gone about it. And they finally in Halo 5 ended up fixing it, where they found a different way, which was recoil instead of having massive spread on the BR, or go the route with DMRs with bloom. But that's the thing. So all these people that were complaining about the entire like, oh my god, Nashers suck at this game, they're still good. I still see a lot of people playing with Nashers, and they're actually good at the game. It's just, it's not going to be the weapon that everyone just goes to, where like at the start of a match everyone just pulls out a Nasher. Instead of having one weapon that's the strong weapon, and every weapon is just kind of like a secondary substitute to that weapon, which a lot of people try to justify with Halo 1 and Halo 2, with the same thing with Gears, saying that the whole game revolves around one weapon and then all the others are there just to kind of accompany it. They want to have it where it's more variety, that you can have tons of other weapons and still be able to use each one effectively, and that they're not just like one weapon that everyone caters to. But then a lot of people are saying that no, then now Lancers are the ones that cater to. But that's just because it's a starting weapon. You can switch out for a lot more powerful weapons in the game. But that's fair enough to say. There's also a lot of complaints about a lot of things that are missing from the game. Like, people go, what happened to Daisy? And what happened to all these other cool weapons like Digger and so forth? And, you know, I hope they may be added in later, but I'm not too bummed out about it. If they're going to do Gears 6 as the last mainline story game, and they're going to do a little bit of a spin-offs, which I hope they eventually do, I hope they do, though, go all out. Every character, every weapon, every vehicle, so that you can have fun again with this, because I would love to see that. Personally, I would have loved to see them hijack stuff, and I also would have loved to see an actual little bit of a bigger battle, because I was really hoping for big scale battles, and what we got was like really small scale. They showed big battles in like these cutscenes, and then there was no big battle at all in the rest of the story. Anyways, I'm going to wrap things up here, and you know, we're going on for a good about 30 minutes here now, so I just want to let you know that you're close to now. If you were playing Gears 5 on Legendary solo, and you just played the main storyline, you'd be now close to completing the campaign. There you go. This is your experience right now. Maybe a good extra 15 minutes, but you would have beaten the campaign by now, because this is just how quick it is to beat the game. That I really, either they go linear next time, which is just, it seems way easier to go linear, or you go with the you go with open world but have actual added elements. Look at Assassin's Creed, they'll add in extra enemies in the open world environment that you don't have to fight and whatnot, but you have to avoid it. They present you with challenges in the actual area so that you have to actually interact with it, and it's not just this big empty space, which is what fortunately Acts 2 and Acts 3 are. It's just a big empty space, and only one area was like really fun, and that was Act 3, when you were just avoiding the sandstorm. Oh my god, that was fun. And then it was like short-lived, and then it was all over. Like, oh well, that was unfortunate. Like, if they had at least added that throughout the entire map and so forth, that, and they just went a little bit lighter on it, but in some areas it went a little bit heavier on it, that would have been perfect. But otherwise, other than that, it was kind of just boring. The last thing I'm going to add here is one that I don't understand what the purpose of it was. Maybe there's something else to this, but the whole pick the person who dies. I get that at least they keep traditional with Gears of War, where someone that they like will die. Usually, I didn't play Judgment, so I don't know if anyone important actually died, but a lot of people in the Gears of War series that are actually important to the game actually die in it, and so it actually goes no, because you kind of feel, you know, they build up these characters that you really care about, and then one of them will actually die, and in this case someone does die, which is your choice in this case, which I get what they were going at. Most of the time, what they're saying is how, you know, it's always been scripted about who's going to die. This time now, it's in your hands. The person that you choose to save, and someone who else will end up dying instead. And so it's kind of like, dude, you're putting that all that pressure on me now. And so I get that whole aspect they were trying to do. I just didn't like it necessarily, because now it makes it so when the next Gears of War game comes out, you're gonna have to do what, a Mass Effect save transfer, or you're gonna have to instead, before you start the mission, you have to say who's the one that survived, and then it makes it extra work to develop the game next time, because when you go on to Gears 6, now you have to, all these scripted lines and stuff, all for when